videos where I just read out data entries. I promise there will be many data entries in this video, but they'll need some more context than the previous ones about flora and fauna. I thought it would be cool to also read out some of the quotes which the PDA says as we explore different locations around the crater, as many of the PDA quotes have integral insight into the technological and historical significance of the precursors or the bacterium, and also I think some of them are funny, and that's reason enough to include them. Skip to this timestamp to begin the video, but before we officially start, thank you all so much for 20,000 subscribers. This is such a huge milestone. This was the milestone I wanted to hit this year. This was like one of my New Year's resolutions. So thank you guys all so much for helping me get there. And thank you all so much for watching this video. I genuinely can't believe it. This is so cool, and I'm really grateful. And you guys have all been so kind and amazing, and the channel's just been really great, and your support really means a lot. So thank you all so much for 20,000. Sit back and relax to this Subnautica video, and thank you all so much again. What are we talking about today anyway? The KHARAA bacterium and the architects and their effect on 4546b and what that meant for the planet and any who had the misfortune of landing on it. The existence of both this ancient race and the deadly virus which almost entirely wiped them out was discovered by Riley Robinson, an Altera Corp employee who crash-landed on the ocean planet of 4546b at some point during the 22nd century, approximately. When Riley Robinson became the lone survivor of the Aurora crash, he had to utilize the planet to his benefit, and he discovered many mysterious things throughout the months he spent surviving on this intriguing underwater moon. The story of the alien race referred to as the precursors, or architects, and their brief residency on 4546b begins over 1,000 years ago in the far reaches of space, a long time ago in a galaxy far away, long before the events of Subnautica, and long before the humans of this universe had mastered space travel. The precursors were traversing the stars and visiting planets and species of all natures. There's even some evidence to suggest they came to Earth during early human eras. Their nature was to explore and expand, and they were curious about the lives of other species. Based on material evidence from 4546b, the precursors had an affinity for collection of artifacts, old and new, their own and others. Eventually, the precursors, in their infinite exploration, discovered something extremely dangerous, fatal, and highly infectious that even they, in their almost impenetrable bodies, could not withstand. The KHARAA bacterium had already wiped out an unknown, but presumably very large number of beings, all kinds of species throughout the universe, and this as the sunbeam was shot out of the sky by the same automated giant laser gun thing which shot the Aurora down. The tower of this facility is actually a massive superweapon, which is the chief purpose that no one has been able to land on or leave Planet 4546b for the past, 1,000 years or so. The weapon itself doesn't have a name, but the facility is As Riley moved deeper into the facility, he no doubt noticed these strange-looking green rocks, 2 of which can be found in the upper section of the quarantine enforcement platform. Ion Cube. This green mineral substance has no entry on the periodic table and an unprecedented ability to store huge amounts of ionic energy within it. Likely grown artificially, cubic appearance suggests it has been cut from a larger deposit. Each cube contains the equivalent ionic energy of 5 kilotons of TNT. Under the right conditions, the energy could be released in a controlled manner, likely used as batteries, but would require a substantial power source to be recharged. Assessment. Valuable energy source. As one explores further, the PDA will continue to scan what it can and inform the player of anything significant. Analysis of the patterns on the walls cannot ascertain whether their purpose is aesthetic or functional. Further data required. I personally think that the precursor buildings look really, really, really cool. I don't know what they put in those buildings, but I just think that they look awesome. Like, they're just so, I don't know, asymmetrical, but like they look kind of perfect. I don't know. I just really like them. Okay, next is the enforcement platform schematic. You will find this from the second alien data terminal in the quarantine enforcement platform. This data set appears to be a multi-dimensional schematic of some kind. By mapping the pattern to 3-dimensional space, it is possible to gather a basic understanding of this facility's internal workings. Construction material. The facility's unknown construction material is identified as an ultra-hard, non-reactive metal amalgam synthesized from off-world materials. There is no indication that it can be damaged or destroyed by available means. The schematic indicates the facility was to be powered by a separate self-sustaining power plant located elsewhere on the planet. The location is not listed, but there is evidence the designers intended to harness the planet's natural thermal energy. Layout. The facility consists of the upper engineering section, where this schematic was found, and the control room, which is accessed via a security-sealed elevator shaft or a separate underwater system. Fortunately, it has malfunctioned. One would also find a third ion cube and another purple tablet here, and the purple tablet would be used to deactivate the force field, which stops one from entering the control room. Following the path inside, one would come to the deactivation terminal, and when Riley Robinson inserted his arm for the first time, he was pricked to test him for the KHARAA bacterium, and therefore his first attempt at deactivation was unsuccessful. The PDA manages to decipher some of the alien language after Riley fails to deactivate the platform. The control panel is broadcasting a message. Translation reads, "Warning, infected individuals may not disable the enforcement platform. This planet is under quarantine." Here are the other data entries that Riley gathered in the control room. The energy core. This device houses energy equivalent to 100 metric ton nuclear detonation, which can be channeled through the facility and directed at vessels overhead or bent around the planet's gravitational pull to strike targets in orbit. Power is routed via the attached terminal, allowing for the device to be deactivated if necessary. It is currently operating without parameters, suggesting it will target any ship within range. Alien facility locations. Intercepted background data regarding further alien facilities elsewhere on the planet. Disease research facility. Depth 800 meters. Location cave system with extensive fossil record southwest of enforcement platform. Function live specimen study. Objective synthesis of antidote for highly infectious bacterium designated KHARAA thermal power facility. Depth 1,200 meters. Location inside an extensive natural rock formation in an area of intense volcanic activity. Function generate energy for all local facilities. Sanctuary A, data corrupted. Sanctuary B, data corrupted. Off-site laboratory, data corrupted. Primary containment facility, data corrupted. In the event of an outbreak, quarantine procedures will be automatically enforced with immediate effect. The quarantine enforcement platform will target all incoming and outgoing craft to prevent the spread of infection off-world. Approximately 1 hour after attempting to deactivate the quarantine enforcement platform and failing, Riley Robinson received a vision, a kind of telepathic communication from an unknown being. He heard a disembodied voice ask, "What are you?" Several places around the crater. So I included these data entries here because one can find these in several places around the crater, and therefore Riley Robinson or the player could have discovered them in virtually any order, so I'm putting them before everything else. And we'll start with alien vents, and these structures can be found in the deep sparse reef in the is unlike any so far recorded in human exploration. Warning: may be contagious. Avoid. Do not, under any circumstances, consume the flesh. Next, enzyme host beeper. A beeper specimen was observed emitting a faint fluorescent enzyme trail and engaging in unusual behavioral patterns. Beeper is actively approaching other creatures, including predators. The specimen is host to a bacterial infection. However, the infection is currently dormant. Beeper's stomach cavity contains an unknown enzyme of foreign origin. Chemical analysis of enzyme bears some superficial similarity to the stomach enzyme of larger predators. Contact with the enzyme appears to inhibit the symptoms of the bacterial infection. Complex structure renders synthesis impossible. Assessment: recommend further research into enzyme origin. Sanctuaries. While exploring the crater, Riley Robinson came across several alien sanctuaries, which seem to have served as both secure storage units — one can find ion cubes here — and as information storage, as there are alien data terminals in each of them. I'm mentioning these before we go into the other deeper alien facilities, because Riley could have discovered these at almost any time randomly, even without having been to the quarantine enforcement platform. All of these sanctuaries require a purple tablet to enter unless I state otherwise. First, Alien Sanctuary Alpha, and you can find this alien sanctuary in the deep, sparse reef at a depth of 287 meters below sea level. Architectural information has been downloading regarding this antechamber. Ceiling fixtures. The structures mounted to the ceiling of the cavern cast a low green light over the data hubs below, but they are also regulating the pH level of the surrounding water and emitting a low frequency sound wave. It is possible the intent was to ensure ideal conditions for a practical end, but their purpose may also have been ceremonial or even recreational in nature. Aesthetics. Ornate in design. The cubes mounted on the pedestals are not being drained of power, suggesting they served some more symbolic purpose. Similarities to old Earth religious iconography may be coincidental, but they may also indicate some shared and ancient cultural history. I think that is a really cool kind of theory, but I don't know if it's true. It is strange that they seem to have stored their ion cubes that way. Doesn't seem very secure, but what do I know? I'm just a common human. The next data entry is entitled Alien Biological History and can be found from the Alien Data Terminal in the Dunes Sanctuary at a depth of 378 meters below sea level. Don't worry, there's no reapers here for now. This terminal contains data mapping and the complete biological history of a member of the alien species. The dataset is hugely complex, but some basic facts can be reconstructed. Was grown from seed 1,708 Earth years ago, separated from broodlings early for special training, inducted into Temple of Research as the youngest ever initiate, age 96, downloaded a corrupted dataset and was stored for 3 years for revalidation. contracted KHARAA bacterium stored in a sanctuary 3 corporeal body safely disposed. That's all we really get to know about the details of these aliens. A very brief and vague timeline of this one's life, but interesting nonetheless. And the last alien sanctuary beta is found in the northern blood kelp zone at a depth of 534 meters. This antechamber consists of a series of data hubs, each adorned with an ion cube. They are networked up to the main terminal in parallel, presumably to ensure data integrity. Over time, unprecedented data complexity. Stored data was scanned into the system at the local terminal. Original data source was organic in nature. Evidence suggests that this antechamber served as a sanctuary of last resort for the aliens that built it. In the event of catastrophe, they could retreat here and somehow transfer themselves to the data hubs for preservation. It is unclear whether other members of the alien species ever returned here, or how many souls are backed up on the hubs, but the data stored is far too complex to reconstitute with the little information available. These data entries indicate that the precursors were capable of moving their minds or souls out of their physical bodies and storing them on their computers, which is technology that the humans of this time have yet to comprehend. I think that's really interesting, that they can move their kind of brains into the computers. I've been playing Portal recently. Kind of reminds me of that, but less about hubris and more about preservation. At least that's how it kind of seems. There are also several smaller alien caches throughout the crater referred to as arch caches, where one can find, alien arches. These caches can be accessed at any time, as long as one has the upgrades to reach these points, but also these caches only contain auxiliary alien arches. There are two kinds of these alien arches: principal and auxiliary. The principal alien arches require an ion cube to be powered, and they each connect to an auxiliary alien arch, which is only activated when their corresponding principal gate is powered. Once they're both activated, one can teleport to and fro as they wish, so one can go to each of these caches and collect So going to these caches before the principal gate has been activated is kind of useless, except to look at the pretty alien arches, I guess. And they can be found. The auxiliary alien arches can be found on the floating island, in the mushroom forest, in the bulb zone, the mountain island, and the ghost forest of the Lost River. There is one principal alien arch available before one delves into further depths of the crater, and it is fossils likely came from an ancient ancestor of the leviathans which inhabit the planet today. The relative size and delicacy of the bones suggests they formed part of the ear canal or some other complex internal structure. Those are some big bones for an ear canal. Alien research equipment. The PDA does its best to analyze and understand what this equipment was used for, but at every turn it seems like the precursors were just so far ahead of us technology-wise, even 1,000 years in the past. The large laboratory table and accompanying scanners incorporate technologies far beyond our current level of understanding. Hypotheses, equipment maintenance, staff maintenance, specimen analysis, specimen gene manipulation, fauna reproductive data. Thanks to the precursors, we now have some very interesting information about the life cycles, biology, and reproductive practices of the local fauna. Extensive alien research data on the local fauna, with a special focus on their reproductive methods. Core conclusions have been synthesized. Aliens discovered the life forms on the planet have just one sex. Fascinating. They observed local organisms engaging in asexual reproduction. All healthy individuals tested were capable of egg laying. Eggs usually required genetic material from another of the species. In a rare case, only one parent was required. With evolutionary mutation introduced by the effects of the environment itself, research appears to have been focused around hatching conditions and genetic variations between parent and child. Next is the disease research facility at a depth of 814 meters below sea level, reaching depths of 800 meters. While exploring the Lost River, Riley discovered another precursor base, but this one is hugely damaged and is the only real damage we see done to anything built by the architects, except the purple tablet that was found in half on the mountain island. This structure is known as the Disease Research Facility and is the only base filled entirely with water. It hangs from ruined cables, with many large fragments of the facility littered around the area. While the base is heavily damaged, its power is unaffected. This facility is less clearly divisible into subsections like the others, especially not in its current state. Just before entering the facility, the PDA announces detecting an alien broadcast. Linguistic analysis reads, "Caution, hazardous materials and life forms contained within. Damaged anchor cable. These thick cables were designed to anchor the nearby facility to the surrounding cave walls. Damage to some of the cabling has resulted in the facility collapsing to the floor. Calculations suggest such damage would require an external percussive force in excess of 300 tons. The most accessible entrance into the disease research facility is from the northwest, where one would find the first alien data terminal locked behind a force field on the northwest wall. The alien data terminal provides entries have been translated. Small herbivore gamma. This entry seems to reference the common paper. Shows no immunity to infection. Death commonly occurs within 4 days. Shows symptom remission on exposure to enzyme 42, but symptoms quickly recur. Shows advanced learning behaviors. Shows some capacity to transmit enzymes to other specimens. Embryos. Adult specimen too large to study in containment. Egg specimens acquired from nesting site. Embryo shows no signs of immunity. Death commonly occurs within 3 weeks. Small sample of eggs has been retained for continued high-priority research on Leviathan hatching mechanisms. Large carnivore theta off-site lab established to study remains. Shows some potential for immunity to infection, but physical remains so far proved insufficient for full reconstruction. Unidentified Leviathan. This Leviathan species has been designated Sea Emperor. Bone samples from Emperor specimens indicate some potential for KHARAA immunity. Single specimen captured for study at purpose-built containment facility constructed in volcanic region at depth 1.4 kilometers. Assessment. While it is unlikely that the Emperor specimen is still contained within the facility described, it may be possible to acquire further data there on the aliens' attempt to develop a vaccine. As the player goes further into the facility, the PDA will be scanning the structure automatically. Interior walls in this section are substantially reinforced, indicating the designers were seeking either to keep something out or contain it within. Whatever their intention, it clearly failed. The second kind of section of this facility contains 2 displays, one with a sea dragon egg and the other with a different ray species of 4546b. But I've already read the ray species one in my flora and fauna video, so if you desperately want to hear it, I believe it's at the end of that video. But I'm going to skip over it for now, because I've already read it, and it doesn't feel right to read it again right now. So instead, we will read the sea dragon egg data entry. This large egg is held in a hermetically sealed environment and has been chemically sterilized. Without the means at the facility to house a fully grown sea dragon specimen, it is possible the aliens sought to study instead the egg-laying and incubation process. To what end is unclear. Rib cage samples. A display case containing an array of rib cages harvested from the indigenous life forms. There is a particular focus in this instant on vertebrate skeletal structures. While some of these skeletons match organisms encountered on the planet so far, most cannot be matched with competence, suggesting that there are species out there not yet accounted for, or that they have become extinct since these samples were collected. Swimming to the west-southwest of the facility, there is another alien data terminal containing the data download entitled Damage Report. Leviathan detected at facility perimeter, closing at high speed. Exterior anchor cable impacted with massive force. Exterior anchor system buckling. Facility sinking. Collision with sea floor. Breaches detected in containment unit 7. Leviathan eggs. Immediate specimen destruction protocol initiated. 314 specimens destroyed. Residual biological evidence suggests that indigenous life forms were brought to this location and subjected to intensive gene manipulation. In the middle of the room is the unmade body of a self-warping quarantine enforcer unit. Self-warping quarantine enforcer unit. This life form shows signs of heavy genetic modification and extensive mechanical grafting. Its digestive and pulmonary systems have been replaced by an onboard battery, receiving energy directly from this facility and distributing it around the body. Miniaturized phase technology has been implanted beneath the skin and is triggered by the central nervous system, allowing the construct to teleport at will. The brain and central nervous system have been digitally augmented with advanced processing power and remote communications. Assessment. Programmable hunter / killer. Avoid. And next, one can also find warper parts. The organic parts on display contain DNA from dozens of different organisms, largely originating off-world. They are in varying states of augmentation with advanced technologies. This production line setup suggests these self-warping constructs were built, maintained, and deployed by the aliens that designed this facility. On the left or west side of the room, there is an alien data terminal containing the data download entitled KHARAA Contagion Profile. This terminal contains extensive data regarding the bacterial contagion identified as KHARAA. Discovery. First encountered during routine network expansion on Outer Worlds. Pandemic development. Network error resulted in routine quarantine procedure failure. Contagion was uploaded to and spread quickly through the core worlds. Confirmed deaths. 143 billion individuals. Bacterial mechanisms. Attaches to healthy living cells and mutates the basic genetic structure. Symptoms. Stage 1. Gradual immune system failure. Stage 2. Green skin lesions and flu-like symptoms. Stage 3. Unpredictable alterations to biological structure. Stage 4. Complete shutdown of executive function. Emergency steps taken. Core worlds quarantined. Bacterial samples distributed to isolated disease research facilities for vaccine development. Treatment procedure. Unknown. Once the player has received this data download, the PDA will suggest data pertaining to the bacterium is being downloaded. Caution. Detecting atypical fluctuations in blood plasma proteins. A self-scan is strongly advised. When Riley scanned himself, he received a new data entry entitled Bacterial Infection Report. You have thousands of years old and made from an unrecognizable natural fiber grown on an unknown planet. It bears striking resemblance to the old Earth yin-yang symbol. Two competing theories may explain this similarity. Aliens visited Earth prior to the 4th century BC and influenced the development of ancient Chinese philosophy. The concept of yin and yang is universal, since yin and yang successful. The next area of the primary containment facility we'll explore is called the pipe room. You'll never guess what's inside. And also, in my opinion, this is one of the coolest looking rooms in any alien structure. But that's just what I think. To access this room, one must enter the door on the east-northeast end of the room. In the center of the pipe room is an alien data terminal containing the data entry entitled Ventilation Control. Water flowing to and from the primary containment facility is being automatically controlled independently of other safeguards. Data on the water composition has been recorded. Inflow. Water is being drawn from different biomes around the surface of the planet. The water temperature is considerably lower than the volcanic environment outside the facility, while microorganisms and nutrient counts are substantially higher. Outflow. Oxygen-deprived water is being flooded from the system and recycled back to the surface. In the center of the room is the huge inflow pipe, and scanning it, one will get the data entry entitled Beepers Entering the Containment Facility. The pipes drawing water into the containment facility are filled with beepers arriving from the surface. The fish show no signs of distress. The specimens scanned have all consumed high quantities of seeds and organic matter from the surface. Some specimens are beginning to show signs of infection. On the other side of the room is the outflow pipe. When scanned, one receives the data entry entitled Enzyme Host Beepers leaving the containment facility. The outflow pipes are filled with beepers traveling back towards the surface. The specimens show no symptoms of infection. All specimens scanned are carrying enzyme 42, which data suggests inhabits the bacterium. Specimens' stomach cavities are otherwise empty. Specimens' stomach cavities are otherwise empty, suggesting they may have purged the contents before entering the pipes. Assessment. If beepers have evolved to distribute the enzyme via the pipe network, this may explain part of the mechanism by which life on 4546b has survived since the bacterial outbreak. The egg laboratory is on the southwest side of the antechamber. This part of the facility was used to study the hatching processes of the indigenous alien eggs, and the BDA says this room appears to be a biological archive, storing more than 40 indigenous egg specimens in different states of development. There is an alien data terminal in this room, but it is for the Sea Emperor Leviathan research data, which I already read the data entry for in my Flora and Fauna video, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, just the parts that I think are relevant to what we're talking about. Reproduction. Large ovary-like organs are carried in the creature's middle section, suggesting that like other species on this planet, it produces eggs. However, internal scar tissue indicates probable infertility. Enzyme 42. The Emperor manufactures enzyme 42 within its stomach cavity to break down its food, and will occasionally expel it into the surrounding waters. This substance was found to neutralize the effects of the bacterium, and its presence in the ecosystems today would explain how life on the planet survived the outbreak. It would remain to be explained by what mechanism the enzyme is being delivered. Comparative analysis of size and metabolic rates indicates the specimen captured by the researchers was approximately 1,600 years old. Assessment. While a healthy emperor specimen may have held some potential as a cure, it is unlikely any research subjects survived quarantine procedures. Next is the dissection lab, which is unfortunately his efforts were in vain. At the southeast end of the antechamber is the Forcefield control terminal. To deactivate the Forcefield blocking the player from the moon pool room, this terminal requires a blue tablet to deactivate. When entering the moon pool room, the PDA will inform you. Unlike other alien facilities, scans indicate this location supports a diverse and healthy ecosystem. Explanation unclear at this time. There are no data entries relevant to this room. It is only a prelude to the space beneath the water. When Riley Robinson dived into the surface of the water, he was met with the friendly and familiar face of the Sea Emperor Leviathan. This ancient being has been living in this ancient aquarium for approximately 1,000 years and used its superior communication skills to reach out and give help to a lost and hopeless human. Are you here to play? Others came here once. They built these walls. They played alone. They bored me. Now they're gone. And instead, we have you. We are curious whether you swim with the current or fight against it as they did. Inside the aquarium is of course the Sea Emperor herself, her 5 unhatched eggs, and several local fauna that can be found throughout the crater. Once within the aquarium, the PDA will announce environment scans indicate the water here is rich with a rare plankton-like life form, which depends on the organic detritus produced by the ecosystem around it. And detecting unusually passive behavioral patterns in nearby predators. Reason unknown. And the plant life in this area is growing outside its normal conditions. Other life forms fertilizing and pruning the vegetation may be offsetting this environmental deficit. The creature's symptoms are being alleviated by the clouds of stomach enzyme being emitted by the Leviathan. Scans indicate the enzyme is too unstable to act as a permanent vaccine. There are also many alien vents lining the walls of the enclosure. Aquarium pipe access point. An access point to the alien piping system transporting water to and from the containment facility. Peepers are using the pipe network to travel to and from the surface. Peepers inside the containment facility. While all other creatures encountered within the facility are isolated within it, peepers appear to be coming and going of their own accord via the alien pipe network. On arrival, peepers are approaching the Sea Emperor. Peepers exhibit a natural affinity for the stomach enzymes being expelled by the Emperor. Peepers which have come into contact with the enzyme are returning to the pipe network. Analysis. This behavior must be the source of enzyme 42 on 4546b, or the area thereof which supports life. It is likely also responsible for the survival of the Emperor and the other life forms contained within the facility. On the northeast end of the aquarium are the Sea Emperor's unhatched eggs. The Sea Emperor's eggs. Shell. Uncommonly strong shell lining exhausted by the embryo. Instead, they exist in a form of natural stasis, awaiting appropriate hatching conditions. Fetal organism. There is a high genetic match between these organisms and the leviathan in the vicinity. They appear to be stable and healthy. It is likely that ideal hatching conditions for the eggs vary considerably from ideal survival conditions for the parent. Hatching enzymes. The emperor specimen's eggs are attached to some form of incubator. In a normal life cycle, it seems likely that sea emperors would have buried their eggs in shallower waters, where different organic materials in the soil would have triggered a hatching response. The incubator suggests the aliens had resorted to developing artificial hatching enzymes, which would simulate the eggs' natural hatching environment, but were unable to discover the formula. With extensive information on the sea emperors themselves, it may still be possible to fabricate an artificial hatching enzyme using indigenous ingredients. However, the only surviving source of that information may be the sea emperor itself. Also on the northeast side of the aquarium is a principal alien arch, which has its corresponding auxiliary arch just off the edge of the quarantine enforcement platform, about 100 meters deep. Aquarium arch. Scans indicate this arch was left inactive when the facility was abandoned. It likely served as an access point to the surface of the planet. It is much too small for the Emperor to pass through, but would accommodate smaller life forms. Of course, Riley Robinson managed, with help from the Sea Emperor, to fabricate the cure to the KHARAA bacterium so that it will no longer ravage the indigenous life forms of 4546b. And hopefully, don't count on Altera to give this out for free. They don't believe in charity. Every other planet that is devastated, or is currently being devastated by the KHARAA bacterium, will be cured after the release of enzyme 42 into the waters of 4546b. Before Riley Robinson builds the Neptune rocket and leaves the planet, he encounters local fauna which have been cured. Specimen with symptoms of infection inhibited. Scans indicate this infected life form has recently come into contact with a unique enzyme which has counteracted the most debilitating symptoms of its infection. Skin blistering has rapidly receded and been replaced with healthy tissue. Altered genetic material has been replaced with original DNA from remaining healthy cells. Behavior normal. The bacteria is still present in the bloodstream, but is currently dormant. And with that, we have come to the end of this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed exploring the precursors and the KHARAA bacterium and everything that they have to do with 4546b. Well, actually not technically everything. Everything they have to do with 4546b on the crater, because there are more data entries actually from Subnautica Below Zero